Hey there, Goa fans. This is Mark DJ Solitaire here with episode 156 of Retro Goa Explorations, my weekly series in which I share in each episode one of my favorite tracks from the 1990s Goa Trance psychedelic dance movement. So this is, in a sense, again, the first time I'm featuring this project, although one of the artists in this collaborative project I've definitely featured a lot and talked a lot about. Um, and I almost included their first track in the previous season, so to speak, because I remember hearing that one later it might have been mid to late, but I think late autumn 97 or so. That was the first time they had a track that was out. It was kind of sometime around then. It might have been a bit before that. But uh, they started to make more of a name and a slightly different sound in 98. And I have a specific recollection of when this particular single was going to drop. And this is a Joujouka, which is a project with Tsuyoshi Suzuki of Prana fame and of Tsuyoshi, the incredible DJ fame, and Takeshi Isogai, who is known as Ubar Tamar. I was at the event where he made his debut in Japan, although I wasn't there for that particular one because he played on the Friday night. It was at that Tribal Planet event in 96 in the Izu area of Japan, an outdoor 3-day party that featured total eclipse. And I remember everybody was telling me on Saturday, oh my God, this guy Ubar Tamara was the most amazing thing. So he's a brilliant, genius musician, and he teamed up with Tsuyoshi and other musicians. So there were other folks who would collaborate on Jojuka tracks over the years, among them Funky Gong, another brilliant musician. But this track, Aoki Uru, is the second one I heard by them. The first one, Amonokawa, really sounds a lot like some Prana stuff. You can really hear it was a fantastic one. And I remember an outdoor event, a tiny one that I played at, where Tom King of Oracle Records played that track. He'd gotten it from Tsuyoshi, and then it would come out on Sacred Sites, Return to the Source Box. But this one came out on a single later in 98, to my knowledge. And the way I remember this one specifically was I arranged a Halloween party in Tokyo, but a little bit too far on the outskirts. So it was a bunch of friends and, some other folks they knew. It was all kind of family affair came. Not a whole lot of people, but it was a lot of fun. But I wasn't at my best. I wasn't feeling so great that day. And I played after Akira from Solstice, who Solstice was just starting to get into organizing parties at the time, but Akira had been a DJ, quite often in Vancouver. Again, our paths crossed there just like for a week or two before everybody, moved back to Japan in March 98. And at the end of the party, it was, everybody wanted one more track. Now I had the Spangle preview, the first album, which nobody had. And I was tempted to put on Divine Moments of Truth, but I was just really feeling out of sorts. I was not feeling, I was like a little bit turned upside down energetically, and I was very tired. So I just told Aki, go put something on. And he had a promo vinyl of this track. Aoki Uru. And it was interesting because both of the tracks, his selection and my selection, were both kind of unconventional from a trance perspective, right? Mine was would have been slower and it would have built up somewhat afterwards, and then his is this is a little bit more. It's got a bit of a rock flavor, but also unbelievably psychedelic. So that's how I've got this time stamped in that, so those memory banks that you all know about. And so I thought, I should really feature this track because I didn't do the previous Joujouka one. I'm going to start going back and doing tracks that I haven't featured. That Return to the Source compilation actually had some great ones. And, but I wanted to feature this one as well because last week in the previous episode, talking about Nucleus, one of the tracks had just a little bit of light breakbeat stuff going on. That wasn't enough to be a deal breaker for me at all. I'm not a big breakbeats fan. And there's also, Sibilant and Metal Spark, who I featured and will again, doing incredible work with breakbeats. Here it's a bit more overt. And, my initial response was not 100% with this one. And that's largely because I am more interested in the sounds that don't come from this planet or that don't sound like they do. And, guitar or percussion, the ones that really sound like earthly instruments, uh, were never really my favorite. That's one of the reasons why I wasn't a huge fan initially of As a Child I Could Walk on the Ceiling. And so then I started really expanding my perspective and hearing this in a different kind of context. But I like things to be outside of the bounds of what normally anchors us to our familiar existence, and have the sounds and the music really take us, connect us to something beyond that. So there's a bit of, the percussive stuff, which is a little bit more overt here. And if y'all didn't know, Tsuyoshi was a drummer, right? He, as far as I know, in high school, he was a drummer. And one particularly memorable event I remember was at a February 97 party in Yokohama, just outside of Tokyo. Massive 14-hour situation. There's a whole long story to tell about this one. But Chakra was playing his set, and he had done a remix of Prana's Tayo, and Tsuyoshi got on the drum set and did it live, which was really cool. So that was a neat one. So the percussion and the rhythmic thing is a lot of something that drives him, and there's also the other stuff, and that's the thing. Re-listening to this, I can really appreciate this differently. I have played this before, and there is still the absolutely otherworldly, spacey stuff, and so I think a lot of it is really context, always in how things sound on a bigger system. So let's give this a listen and see what we think. Again, I think revisiting old tunes, we can often hear something different than our first impression. And there's also, I should add here just before we start, that, it did remind me of some of the tracks that I would hear in 94 and early 95 at the Odyssey parties in Tokyo, where Jay and Mayuri would play a range of music. And Mayuri in particular, she had this incredible, like, tech house psychedelic kind of blend that was just wild. And there's a legendary track, Planet of the Drums, that's really psychedelic, but of course, has some real percussive qualities to it. And, this actually does remind me of that, even though it's a little bit more incisive, right? It's a little bit sharper and more pronounced in terms of the sounds of the percussion. But, listening again, I was reminded of that blend of, earthly, familiar stuff and that really cosmic sound. And it can be a really, really interesting bridge. So let's give this a listen. And the track title, Aoki Uru, is it's anime related. It was a series that was supposed to be made and was canceled as a follow-up to another anime series. Ao is blue. So there's that. All right, let's give this a listen. Aoki Uru by Joujouka. Okay. Don't know who's saying what there. And then nice little sound there. And then we start getting some of these. Love that sound. This was a revolutionary sound at the time. So at this point, even with the percussion and the synth sounds, it's really pretty otherworldly. I love that chime, and then the way this is getting louder. Okay, pretty strong rhythm, right? And, we've had this kind of rock-like element right before with Johan and Delta and Juno. A little bit of sort of some raring and sort of full power vibes. I was expecting a bit of a bigger break there. Yeah. So again, you know, the upper sound of that percussion for me is a little bit more earthy, shall we say, but it's not overt, not too strong just yet. But it's, and I love that repeating bass line. So really get the body moving, right? It's really kind of mid-level frequency, really get your chest driving. Now this is where we get our otherworldly stuff. I like the way there's a call answer and then just the call. And then there's that other stuff in the background. This is really otherworldly. And that driven, gnarly sound with that extra rhythm. And this really is like, you know, you hear that Tsuyoshi element with that cyber electric, high-paced, you know, otherworldly kind of sound. Just incredible. And with those voice-like things, so you get that kind of wild Australian flavor here that Nick Taylor brought to early Prana. So again, it's very Prana-like, and mostly, you know, Prana V1, right? Like first iteration with Nick Taylor. So got a lot of that Australian wildness that's pretty common in music from that period. So this is where it starts, you know, the rhythm is becoming really sharp. And you know, on a big system, this will hit differently. Now this is really like some early 90s sound. With that more modern, you know, or contemporary at that point, percussion. Also, that is pretty psychedelic. And those voices. Love that. Those chopped up voices, absolutely amazing. And then this sound coming in. Good old repeated one-note bass line. Quite a long break. You know, drop this at the right times. Exactly what people need. Love that gnarly sound. I kind of wish that continued a little bit more. Beautiful sound. Build up. You rarely get those drum build-ups nowadays. I don't know why. Very cool sounds there in this repetition. love this mantra-like repetition here. Really gets you in a hypnotic loop. And then we're coming back to that subject. Call, answer, call. They're like climbing. These are really old, like there's some like historical trance elements in here. Yeah, this is like really reminds me a lot of '94 or some of these sounds here. And that's quite a trip, right? It's a lot of different flavors going on. Now, Tsuyoshi was really starting to move away from quote unquote Goa trance, and I understand more now what was driving that. And that was where we were seeing, a really locked down kind of this is what Goa trance is, really defining the term. And a limitation on a musical scene that's supposed to be about expansiveness. Now, of course, the irony now is it's even more than before, with a da 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 situation going on. And, just chopped up chords, always the same kind of thing. No real tune and nonstop breaks. So he was trying to break out of the constraints that seem to be imposed on a scene that's supposed to be about, no constraints, right? And really expansiveness. So he was bringing his musical depth and experience from, previous to his involvement in this scene into what was going on over here, right? So we hear it in that strong rhythm. There's Ubar Tamar, I suspect, had some guitar background, and we know that, of course, Funky Gong did. And so he brought some stuff. Check out his solo stuff as well. Absolutely amazing. So this was an interesting shift that was starting to take place. And I think something that's, of course, important to do if you don't at least try to push the boundaries, then you can't really say that you're in a scene that's about breaking boundaries. And so that's what was happening here. So again, the my initial response to this back then, I wanted more prana. I wanted more of that other stuff. Now looking back and sort of zooming in and zooming out, from a different perspective, I can really hear the richness that's over here and those earlier elements, because really there are some sounds from '94 in here that really go back to the roots, certainly of like my entry into the scene. So I think it's a really fascinating track. So I will sign off here, let y'all listen to it again without any commentary. See what you think. Leave a note in the comments. I'm Mark DJ Solitaire, wrapping up episode 156 of Retro Goa Explorations, leaving you now with Joujouka's Aoki Uru.